Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Beat. Let's get you healed up. Let's get you healed up. Healed up. Yeah. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up in my headphones. My headphones. Turn it up in my headphones. Audio medic. Audio medic. Audio medic. Move to the beat. Boost. Boost. Oh, this is my jam. Time to accelerate. Alright, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Beat. Let's get you healed up. Let's get you healed up. Healed up. Yeah. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up. Up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up in my headphones. My headphones. Turn it up in my headphones.
All right, gamers, how you doing today? It's your boy Dazzle167 once again with another episode of Off the Wall, powered by CGL Console Gaming League. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Kuray, and he is the founder of Chaotic Esports, or Chaotic. Is it Esports, or is it just Chaotic?
Yeah. No, it's Chaotic Esports.
Chaotic
It's
Esports.
either
Okay.
or.
I'm making sure because I remember when I was looking it up just like a few moments ago, I also happened to see Chaotic Legion, and is that associated with you guys as well?
Yeah, that's our academy team actually.
Right. So then I was following them, and then I was like, oh wait, I forgot. Are they Legion or? So I just wanted to make sure, but that's cool to know. All right, so cool. So let's get a few things out of the way. One of the first things that we talk about is like your SR and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about your gaming your SR wise. Like what are you in Overwatch? How's your comp season going? What are you doing?
Funny enough, okay, so my main is like sitting between 2.6, 2.7, right? And it's like it's the most annoying thing ever because I started playing a lot more on my alts, right? And my alt account, I just hit 3.2 today.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like it's the quality of people that I'm getting on my main versus my alt, because on my main I don't get people that come in voice chat, and if they do, they're really toxic, versus like my alt, I'm getting everybody's in voice chat all the time, and that stuff. So I'm always winning and that kind of stuff. So it truly is helping.
Right. And here's the thing too, like I have a similar experience because my main account is currently in Masters, and it was high Masters for a bit. Well, I mean, I made it to GM at one point, and then I fell, and then I kept falling, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play on my Smurf, which is, I think at the time was 2.5, and then I think in the last 2 days I've just been playing on my Smurf, and I got it to like 3.4. And I didn't even mean to. It was just like I was helping other people out. I was stacking and like playing with other people and helping them, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, I was 1 game away from Masters, and then I lost the game, and I was like, yeah, I'm done for the night. It's like 3 a.m. I don't want to play anymore. But yeah, I totally understand that. I feel like the MMR becomes better on your alt accounts because you have already understood the game past your main account, right? So that's part of it too. All right.
Yeah,
well,
I think.
Oh no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I think the game needs an MMR reset in order to fix comp, just like that happened around 10 seasons ago, something like that. It needs an MMR reset, I think.
Right, because there are quite a few players who, even at my elo and above, where there are players who you can tell that they're not supposed to be in that elo, but because they will just play a couple of games, or maybe even just a couple of games in the season, and then that's it, and they just kind of they just float in that elo, and so they get to stay there. Right. But yeah, an MMR reset is definitely something that I think would be good. I also think maybe the roll queue would be good as well. A lot of people have been talking about that, so hopefully that might be something that we see hopefully in the future. I'm not exactly sure, but hopefully. One can only hope, right?
One can hope.
Right. So let's talk about the way we usually start the show is we talk about yourself and your gaming experience. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of your gaming origins. Let's go to some of the first few games that you started playing. What piqued your interest? What was some of the first games and platforms you played?
Okay, so I had an original Xbox and an original Game Boy, right? And so my first 2 games were actually, believe it or not, it was Star Wars, the original Star Wars Battlefront, right?
Okay.
And
Right.
I really liked playing like Pokemon Gold and like Ultimate Spider-Man and stuff on my Game Boy. Like I had like a little Nintendo bag that I brought around, and then what I guess really started my getting into shooters was Halo 2, whenever that
Right.
came out.
Yep.
And I started playing Halo and I fell in love with it. So
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, definitely Halo was of a huge introduction, especially for Xbox players, right? Because it was such a big
definitely.
it was the exclusive for Xbox and it was such a good game. Yeah, absolutely. So, what eventually led you into Overwatch? Because I feel like Overwatch is one of those games where, there's so much strategy and it's not necessarily just FPS. So, what led you to it?
Well, I was a Destiny player
Ah,
for a long
okay.
time, right?
Right.
And I was in the competitive trials community, and there wasn't really like anything kind of going for it. And I had been playing Destiny for around 3 years, because I was with Bungie and I wanted to kind of like keep it going, but I was kind of getting sick of it. And I was like, there was this little area where I was kind of floating around, like playing game to game, that kind of stuff. And then Overwatch kind of announced its release, and I was like, "Hey, that's kind of cool." Like, like I've never seen a game like that before, and it's first-person shooter. So why don't I, try that out? And I came in season one and played season one a little bit. Still played Destiny, but then I started phasing in like season two and three. I started really getting serious. Like I had like 6 hours season one and two, but then season three I had like over 80. So it's
Right.
like once season three kind of hit and like the graphics update happened and all the like major updates happened, I finally came in. I was like, this is a pretty cool game. So yeah,
Nice.
that's kind of what got me in Overwatch.
Nice. So, what was some of the first heroes that you started playing with? What did you dabble with, and what did you end up maining?
So it's funny enough because I've gone through like 8 identity crises whenever I played Overwatch. I played about every role in the game. So I started off as a McCree main, right? Because I liked, his character. I liked how he was pretty simple, and it was like a McCree soldier main, that kind of thing. Like I was
Right.
mainly hit scan, and then I kind of found like it wasn't like Destiny. Like the aiming wasn't the right way, so I wasn't as good, I guess.
Right.
And so then that kind of segued me into like different projectile heroes. Like I started playing Hanzo, Genji. I started expanding my DPS hero pool, and I was DPS probably up through season 9. And then that's kind of where I was like, okay, DPS is boring now. Like I can't play this. I can't play this anymore. I'm kind of stagnating in skill, And so I then switched to off support for a while. Then I went back to DPS because queuing as a support was like really rough. You
Yeah. Oh,
know,
I believe it.
I assume you know. I assume you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then what happened is that I then kind of moved into um, I had an identity crisis. It was funny because I actually had it earlier this season, and I was like, I don't know if I want to play off support or if I want to play off tank because I was good at
Right.
both. You know what I mean? And so then I kind of like settled on off tank because that's kind of what my team needed. We needed a like Diva Zarya player. So I hit Diva. I grounded really really hard. Ended up falling in love with the character, and now on my alt, I've got like an 88% win rate with like 5 hours played or something like that, and like you
Okay.
know, I and so I'm steadily and finally increasing in skill now that I've really found that role. So
Nice. That's always really good to hear. I think that at some point I had the same type of epiphany where for me, I was thinking, well, what's the highest win rate I have for my characters? And I tried branching out to different characters, but like for me, Lucio has only been the only character that I've gone above 50% win percentage, and even higher than that. And then I was like, oh, it's weird. It's
Rev
like
it
the only
up!
thing that like allows me to climb. So I just started playing that. But I started climbing and I started doing well. So I just felt like, why not keep doing it, right? So I
yeah,
can
right.
I totally see that. Well, let's talk about your org really quick because I'm interested
Okay.
in the origins of the org itself. What made you want to start team Chaotic, and what were some of the beginnings like, and what decided for you to make that team?
So the beginnings were interesting because they actually started back in 2016, right?
Hmm.
Mostly because I had a six stack of people where we played every single day, right? And I mean
Right.
every single day. And we climbed out of gold or from silver to gold to platinum with that six stack. And I was like, hey, we're pretty good. And then it kind of struck me because Overwatch esports were like just starting, right?
Rev
Right.
it
And
up!
there was another league at the time that was there. I think it was called the Overguard. Yeah, the Overguard.
Overguard. Yeah.
And yeah, and so basically what I did is I ended up being like, hey, we should put together a team, right? And so we
Right.
started practicing in comp, really like amateurly, and then we played a couple tournaments. Never really got really far because everybody else was like grandmaster, that kind of stuff. And
Right.
so then I kind of scrapped the idea for a while and just kind of went back to playing on my own. And flashback to season 5 of CGL. Um, it was that summer, whatever. I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this again because I found out about what the CGL was. So I ended up just picking up a bunch of random people off ladder. There's quite a few people that are pretty prominent in the community. Gate Action, Roos, and a few of those other people. Like a lot of them play on Throne, but some of them play on other teams, that kind of stuff. And then like Revenant Oni, who plays on our team still. They are all from ladder, right? Like I just
Yeah.
found I was like, hey, that'd be a pretty good person, and that's kind of where Chaotic really started. The branding wasn't really created until we got closer to playoffs of our first season because that's whenever I started taking it really seriously.
Right.
Um, and so that was, that's kind of where we began, and I can't say that I'd be here without a. So
You can't. Okay. I'm sorry. You cut off there at the end. You can't say what?
I can't say that here with any of them. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it seems like you've been doing this team thing for a while. Obviously, this is 2016. We're already in 2019. That's quite a bit. So,
yeah.
tell me this. It's something that I'm curious about. And obviously you mentioned quite a few people who are already like kind of known in the community as well. So when you started this Chaotic, did you think it was going to be to the point where, because I mean, if anybody looks at your social media, they'll immediately be like, oh, this is a pretty well off team. Like they look good, like as far as like the team goes. So did you think at some point that it was gonna grow to the point where, oh, we're gonna be taken seriously as an org now? Can you hear me?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I was
yeah,
just saying, like,
sorry about that.
did you think that after all the growth that you've had in your organization, did you think it would be like this? Like, do you think that the growth would be as exponential as you thought it was? Because if you look at your social media, it looks pretty. It looks, pretty detailed, and you guys have good graphics and everything. So, do you think that became like, was that your expectation?
I can't say really because we kind of didn't really take it seriously until like the season started coming up and we started scrimming and we started to kind of taking it seriously. And ultimately, what really happened is that we had such a drive to win and such a drive to kind of get to those grand finals once we started the season and that kind of stuff that it was like it was like a fire that I had never seen before, and that's kind of when I started taking it seriously. That's whenever I started kind of really taking it seriously. Is I was like, okay, like this could be a legitimate thing. So that's whenever I kind of found a graphic artist through one of my players, and then I was like, hey, could you help me improve this kind of stuff? And like, then really whenever it was like kind of defying all odds, and we actually won the season 5 championship for tier 2. Um, that's not a big deal for some, but like that was huge. We came in
Yeah,
our
yeah,
first season, there was
for
all these
sure.
veteran teams, and we came in and we actually won, right? And so that's when kind of I started taking Chaotic seriously, and I started building. We expanded into a tier 2 team, got new graphics, got new branding, kind of expanded on that kind of stuff, and that's really when I started taking it seriously. I kind of just started it for fun because I'm a competitive person, and yeah. So I didn't. It really. I don't think anybody ever expects it, but once it kind of comes your way, it's either you seize that opportunity or you don't.
Right, right. Well, listen, speaking about the team itself, let's talk about kind of like the elephant in the room. I think your team has gone through quite a bit of controversy, a lot of different allegations between
Yeah.
hacking from your own staff and all that stuff like that. Even now, as we speak in chat, people are talking about several different things that happened within the org. From what I
Okay.
see, people are saying about there's been bans on a couple of players or slash teams or whatever the may be. So expand a
Mhm.
little bit about some of the controversy that you guys have been going through.
So it's a very complicated situation, as I'm not entirely sure how much I want to reveal as like who the persons involved were. The
Right.
controversy didn't really start until our Twitter was hacked. Our Twitter was hacked by a former staff member that moved to another organization. I will confirm that.
Okay.
So all the evidence was there. It even goes as far as the IP address. Like, you know how Twitter will send you like, hey, there's a login from here. That's where he logged in from. The email and the phone number were both his own, which I had because he was very close to me. And so that happened. And basically, what happened is he leaked both mine and another staff member's phone number, right? He
Right.
leaked their phone numbers online, um, and threatened to release more personal information about us. He found pictures that I don't even know how he got of me and other people, right?
Right.
And so it was just a little off-putting because I was at work whenever it happened, and I was like, I had to go on full damage control because it was like, there was all these horrible things being said about people and all that other stuff, and it kind of didn't happen until about an hour or two later into it that a group chat was made between me and another staff member, and they threatened to release even more personal information. They threatened to release his mother's, or they threatened to leak his mother's phone number, which they did later, and they threatened to
Wow.
release photos of me, and then it just kept getting worse, and then he threatened to leak my address and all this other stuff. And unless I admitted that my organization has done nothing but cheat and all this other stuff, and that's kind of what started the controversy, is that he was like throwing those allegations in our direction, and then I had to go out and admit to it because otherwise he was going to release where I lived. Right? He had already
Right.
released pictures of me. He had already released my phone number, so I didn't know I didn't know what else was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I ended up releasing that, and that kind of stirred into the community. There was a lot of rumors and stuff about us, and it just it kind of took a form of its own because I wasn't only fighting a battle of my players freaking out and messaging me. I
Right.
was also fighting a public relations battle, and I was fighting a battle with the admins. And I can't say, I'm going to try and say this the nicest way possible. I can't say I was very assisted throughout the whole thing by anybody. Everybody either didn't respond to me, or like the people in higher places. Again, I don't want to
Oh.
name names or anything,
Right.
but
Right.
they were very slow to get back. Just didn't really seem like they were taking it seriously, right? So that kind of like turned me off to the whole situation and kind of made me a little upset, as to I kind of had to do everything by myself, even though we had proof of who it was,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so it's like all the evidence and stuff that we submitted was kind of thrown out the window, it feels like, because I don't know why. It's just one of those things that I don't know why it wasn't like taken seriously, to say the least. I know there's not a lot that they can do about Twitter, but again, so that's kind of what sparked the controversy. And then there's all these like CGL expose accounts on Instagram, or not Instagram, Twitter, CGL Juice, some of those other ones for some reason. And
Okay.
people would send them just random stuff and they would release it and make it look like, it's like, oh, we have even more proof that Chaotic are a bunch of cheaters and all this other stuff. And so that
Right.
kind of that kind of added fuel to the flame, that kind of
Right.
thing. And it's just like, it just got out of control. Like we were the name, and like everybody on my timeline, right? Like everybody was talking about us, and like, being in a very important position within org as that's happening is like, it's really kind of anxiety inducing almost, you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, but yeah, so that's kind of like the basis as far as the Twitter hacking goes. That's kind of like to explain what happened on our side, you
Well,
know?
and here's the thing, and I think that I'm gonna give my thoughts on this because I think this is a highly debated topic, and even as we are talking, people are discussing it in chat as well. Um,
Okay.
I think this is one of those things where people kind of lose sight of what we're here for, right? I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, we're talking about video games, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about the thing that we like to do. Which, by the way, when I was a lot younger, which I'm a lot older than most of the community, but when I was a lot younger, and I did this for fun. There was no CGL. There was no, I think MLG had just basically started, like,
Yeah.
there was none of that. I didn't have, there was no being an esport, or an e-athlete or whatever. None of that existed. You played with your friends, like at your house, or, you at the very most, you would make a tournament
Was
by
a clan.
connecting your Xboxes together or your
Yeah.
PlayStations together, and then playing like that mode. So essentially, this is like a grassroots thing, right? So when I hear about all these controversies of my organization got hacked, or people are saying this and that, and people are doing this, I just think to myself personally, I'm like, it's not that serious, people.
Exactly, dude.
You know what I'm saying? Like it really isn't. This is video games. If your life is defined by how much SR you have, or how good you are at one particular thing, then I feel sorry about your life in general.
I couldn't agree
Right.
with you more, to be
And,
honest.
and this is what brings me to it, because when you first approached me about the situation, I was like, wow, that's really like that's very interesting, and it's kind of weird for me, because like I do this for fun. I have a job, I
Yeah.
go 9 to 5 and work that job, and I come home and I do this for fun, and I have the podcast for the community. But seeing how some of these people and kids and stuff like that react to some of the stuff is just a little bit too. Sometimes people just need a reality check, right?
Exactly. It's like it kind of consumes them, because it's like, if for somebody to go on an Xbox Overwatch's account,
Right.
hack it, and then leak personal information about
Right.
people, it's like, how much time, effort, and stuff do you have to kind of put into that
Right. Right.
to just get a reaction out of people? It's like, it's almost, I dare to say it's pathetic, right? Because
Right. Agreed.
because it's like, it's like, wow, you feel good, you exposed or you exposed an esports organization, like that's not even that serious, that's in an Xbox league. It's like, like, do something better with your life, do something more constructive. And it's just, it's really frustrating to kind of see that, because it's like those people that just kind of like to see the world burn, right? So
Right.
and it's just like, you take something that people work so hard to create, and then you ruin it, right? And it's like, people actually get off on that kind of stuff. And to me, it's just like, those are young kids that have kind of nothing to do, they don't have a job, that kind of stuff, and it's like their world kind of revolves around this. And
Right.
like, this is their life, you know um
Right. I,
so
I totally agree. I totally agree. And here's the thing too, and we'll get to the next topic with this, but I think that, like, on top of it being type of like a very petty thing to do, which is, hack somebody's personal information and expose that information to other people, which is not only petty, but it's stupid. And, it's the type of thing that, you do as like sort of a vengeance. You don't do it to expose people, because exposing people would be telling the truth about someone and having that truth be self-evident, which means that everybody knows, oh yeah, that person actually did that. Yeah, you're right. And if I said something like, hey, Chaotic did this, and other people back me up, and then people are like, oh yeah, Chaotic is this and that and blah blah blah, and then they respond to it, then it becomes
they're feeding into it.
Right, exactly. And so, if you are the type of person that just starts stuff for no reason, or for a very petty reason, it's pointless. And here's where it changes for me. Because the thing that like really was weird for me was when you told me about this, and I was like, oh well, what tier are you? And you were like, oh well, we're tier 2 and 3. I was like, what? You guys are platinums, and you guys are like having all these issues. I go to platinum to like have fun. Like there's no way that
there's not believe how toxic and ruthless.
No, I believe it. I believe it. But my problem with it is, I believe it, but my problem with it is that it's not that serious. The prize pool for CGL at that level is like maybe everybody gets to, have a Big Mac afterwards if they win. You know what I'm saying? Like
$30. Like that's what, like, it's $30 if your org doesn't take any off the top, Like, I don't know. It was just, it's so minuscule to me,
Right. By the way, chat, I'm reading the stuff that you're saying, and I will address all of these questions and stuff like that. So don't think that I'm ignoring you and stuff like that. We're definitely gonna get to everybody's point of view and stuff like that. So don't make sure that when we talk about this stuff like that, and you have questions and you have your point of view, I will get to them. We will address them at the end of the show. But for right now, we're just kind of going back and forth and talking about this particular thing, and we we're gonna talk a little bit about it, but more on the point of the tier itself. I think that like tier 5 has their own controversies, and tier 4 and all the other people, even my team that I play for, we've had our ups and downs, and we've had people either banned or no longer on the team or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, like, we just want to play and have fun. That's really it. That's really it. And whether you're on the side of the people saying that they got cheated, or you're the people who are cheating, or whatever the case may be, or whatever you think it is that's happening, this is video games, people. We the prize pool ain't that much. Like, I make more in a day than I'm gonna earn playing video games, so it really doesn't matter. Like, and it shouldn't matter to anyone else for that matter. But here's the bigger question, right?
Yeah.
And this goes into our next question that I already had lined up about some of these claims that people are having, and already people are talking about it in chat. There's already people talking about like, well, they did this, they did that, and so let's clear up some of these claims, right? Because I feel like the biggest thing that chat is already talking about, and specifically Theory, who added me in the chat, he is expressing that the players in Chaotic, or the organization itself, he feels as though they are cheaters. And now I don't know what the basis for this is, or the history, or any of the claims. So brief me on, why do you think people are claiming that Chaotic are cheaters or stuff like that?
Okay, so there was a situation that I'm gonna come clean about. Obviously, this was between me and the admins. So there was a instance in which two of our players were actually, one of them was boosting the other one. Right, that's something that not a lot of people know, but one of them was boosting the other one. It was Tahotra was boosting SF Sleepy. A lot of people think that Tahotra is SF Sleepy, and that's just not the case. What happened is that they were good friends, and I then, kind of found out that he was boosting him, and I kind of didn't really say anything at first because I didn't want to really kind of touch it. And then then that's kind of whenever I realized, like, that was against CGL rules and that kind of shit. And I was like, oh no, like, I was like, okay, we could be in big trouble here. And I'm not trying to have one of my best players banned, right? So basically what happened is I punished them within the organization, and I said, hey, both of you are not playing in any scrims, any games, or anything this week, right? I forget, that was around season or week 6, 7 or something. I'm not sure if there were VODs from then, but they both, in fact, missed their games. But then later on, what happened is we ended up kicking somebody from the organization because they did some really, really bad things and stuff that I'm not going to expose them for here. And we unfortunately had to part ways. And I guess to get back at us, he went to the mods with the whole situation. And so the mods kind of reached out to me. They're like, it's a compromised account. He can no longer play. And I said, okay, I understand, right? Like, I fought it a little bit, but then I was like, there's kind of really no point. There's nothing I can do about it. We're going to learn this, right?
Right.
And so that was kind of the extent that it happened to, or that was kind of the extent that went to, and me and the CGL admins worked it out. There was no problems. And then that's kind of whenever we started having problems with 2 other players on our academy team, right? And they now have formed their own team, but our academy team kind of like there was this big falling out that kind of happened, and because of this one player that got kicked and reported all this information, so one of them actually followed him, right? And I came to learn that he then reported a bunch of other things, like a bunch of other things, and that kind of stuff. He reported a bunch of other things that like weren't real, like was kind of taking things out of context. This guy was constantly bragging about having spies in our Discord, that kind of stuff. And we were constantly getting things from mods and being like, yo, what's this about? All this stuff. And it even got to the point where it's like, I was getting messages every other day, that kind of stuff. And I was getting a little frustrated because these people openly came out on Twitter and attacked us and all this other stuff. And it's because, we actually have rules and things that I like uphold. I'd say that my rule sets are a lot more lax than a lot of other official organizations, right?
Right.
Like fun, that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of the situation that happened. I can confirm that he played, that guy that was boosting him played absolutely no CGL games on his account, right? Because I would not allow it, right?
Right.
That's, I would not allow that. And so that, ultimately that didn't happen. And, it was like that information is kind of coming back, right? Because somebody somehow got a hold of that information. And I have a feeling amongst everybody else hating us that those screenshots kind of got leaked, right? Of the account sharing information being traded, what I mean? And so that kind of ended up sparking that. And then that's whenever everybody started pointing fingers and saying, oh, no, that person was cheating. Oh, no, that person was cheating. Oh, that person was on his account. And there's just no basis of fact, right? There is no screenshot. There is no recording. There is no anything like that besides this isolated instance right here. And so what ended up leading to that ban was whenever I reported all the Twitter stuff and all these allegations were made, the CGL ended up, I guess, reinvestigating or something like that, and said that there was some other revelating evidence that came out that I was never shown. Right? I asked, but then they said that it would reveal who they got it from.
Right.
That's who I was told. So I never actually saw any of that stuff. And so I don't know what evidence particularly they're talking about, right? Besides, it went back to that one thing, but they said that because it happened in the past, that it could have happened again.
Right.
Right? So they ended up banning me because I allowed it to happen, and everybody else that was alleged to do it without any evidence kind of being provided that those people kind of traded the accounts. It was the 2 people who actually did share the accounts. They got banned. I myself got banned, and then 2 other people that had nothing to even do with the situation were also banned because of it, right? And so I kind of fought to get those people on ban. I was like, listen, I'll take these 2. I'll even take myself because, that's on me for not reporting it to you guys, I guess. But these 2 other people, they didn't do anything. that kind of stuff. And then now, every single time they post on Twitter, they're getting called the cheaters, and that's kind of where the whole thing came from. It's just because it's nothing but hearsay, right? There is no
Right.
basis in fact. Nobody is coming to the actual people who have the information on why it happened, and that's kind of why I'm hoping to clear things up a little bit. Is that why the people were actually banned versus why people think they were
Right.
banned? Right? There's a totally different story.
Right. Right.
And so, we're just kind of caught in this endless loop of like we're in bad standings with the public right now because of what people believe, because nobody wants to believe us anymore, right? Of what we
Right.
say. So there's kind of nothing we can do about it. So that's why we're kind of moving past it and hoping that one day that people will kind of just forget and move on, or give and move on, or just kind of
Right.
realize that it doesn't matter, or actually one day ask somebody for the real truth.
Right.
So,
And I
yeah.
mean, all of that is really interesting because here's my personal thoughts about it, and this is probably mainly the reason why I created the show to begin with, because I knew that once CGL became a little bit bigger, once they had money involved in prize pools and stuff like that, things like this
Yeah.
were gonna happen, right? And I know why I wanted people to be able to have a voice, to voice their opinions and stuff like that, and that's probably the biggest thing that I wanted people to be able to do on the show. So here's my thoughts. There's no
Okay.
league in the world in regular sports, esports, doesn't matter, that has not gone through controversies, whether through some of their teams, organizations, players, staff members,
Absolutely.
whatever the case may be, right? There's never been a perfect sports or esports organization, right? I mean, even the OWL has had their own set of controversies with either players, organizations, staff members, whatever the case may be. And here's a direct link to it, because I feel like this is also something that can relate to it. If the case was that, oh well, this player was boosting and blah blah, and then this is what we consider cheating, and that's what was happening, and there was either Smurfs or boosting or whatever the case may be. That happens at every level. At higher levels, it happens as well. I mean, I think the most famous case was Philadelphia Fusion's Sato, who for a long time had he had a boosting company, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
the man boosted so many different accounts and broke terms of services, and regardless of that, he stuck with the Philadelphia Fusion. He had a 30-game ban, which is 3/4 of a season, and came back and still played. So I mean, if it goes to show you that those things not only happen, but are also things to learn about, because at the end of the day, we're talking about video games, and the people who are involved in this sort of situation of leagues and everything, whether it's OWL or CGL or whatever the case may be. I mean, people have to remember that most of the people are kids. Most of them going to school. Most of them are gonna make mistakes, are gonna say things wrong, are gonna do things wrong. And so I think that people have to just stop giving so much thought into it when at the end of the day, like I said before, it's just video games, right? We're doing this for fun.
Yeah.
We're trying to just make things better, make things fun for the public and stuff like that. So I get it. I understand that in the chat, I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh well, Chaotic is definitely doing this. Listen, this is the point. And I've had controversy in my very own gaming and stuff like that as well. And all I can say is that there's always going to be something or someone who, regardless of whether they know the true story or not, they're going to voice their opinion, and whether it's right or wrong, it's going to be heard, right? Because that's what the internet is, right? It's going
It's
to
a
be
hot topic.
right. It's going to be
Um,
a hot topic. So
by no means am I condoning this, right? Like, by no means am I saying,
right,
hey, what these players did were right and they didn't deserve to be banned, right? Because they did break terms of service. And obviously, if it was any other esports organization, like if that had happened and you found out about it, kind of where I was sitting is like, I don't want two of my best players to be banned, right?
Right.
It's like one of those things. It's like that hurts our chances of winning. And so no matter how elitist or white knight anybody is going to sound here, it's like if you did find out that one person was boosting the other, you're not going to go to your own league and rat on your own team because, you know, you want them to win. I'm not saying that what they did was right. That's why I kind of handed out that one week suspension there, is because it's like I'd rather handle it internally instead of saying it's okay, just get out. And, you know, I made them log out of the accounts, that kind of thing. And then because of that, and because of that information coming out, a lot of rumors kind of sparked, and they kind of spread like wildfire throughout the community. And, you know, it's just kind of the hot topic of what everybody was talking about. Like, it's something interesting to get involved with. It's something to spice up life a little bit, you know? It's like, and I think a lot of like the reason that a lot of people, like, because we were a pretty prevalent name within the community already. We were very active on Twitter. We weren't scared to voice our opinions, right? I think that's kind of how me and you met, is through opinions and through stuff like that. It's like my team wasn't afraid to fire back at people that kind of like talk bad about us or talk stuff like, and so that's kind of why we kind of got a name. That's probably not the best way to do it. But there was always, you know, some sort of Twitter stuff that we were involved with, or, you know, like, we then kind of became the bad guys of the CGL, and it's kind of like we fed off of it. It was like a kind of a game kind of thing to like a lot of people. And a lot of people were like, hey, you know, I understand, like, you're not serious about it. And that at the end of the day, we're all kind of playing to have fun, but you guys are like the bad guys of the CGL season. And, you know, it's just, it's a successful way to build a brand almost.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of, you know, that's kind of why we're known, and all these things kind of, I guess, spread as fast as they did.
Right. And I mean, listen, I'm a big sports fan, right? I think that, you know, before I started following esports, I mean, I always played video games, but I also followed sports in general. And I've always been a big fan of the good and bad guy narrative that just inherently happens within sports, right? So like you got somebody who's, you know, the bad guy, or you got somebody who's the good guy. In reality, you have to understand that, you know, at the end of the day, these players aren't really bad guys or good guys. They're that because the people determine that that's what they are. I mean, you know, for a long time, I live close to Cleveland, Ohio, and we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, and for a long time, people in Cleveland hated LeBron James. Why? Because he wasn't here playing with them, and the way he left them and stuff like that, and he was the bad guy for so long, right? Until eventually he came back and he won the city a championship, and then he suddenly became a savior, right? And so LeBron James is not a bad person, right? He might have been seen as a bad guy within the league because of what he did and how he did it and stuff like that. But we got to remember that all of these things are narratives. They're not necessarily truth within what happens. People are going to say and talk about stuff, but we're all just regular gamers that just want to play the game. And, you know, your opinion of me or you or whoever it is going to be different no matter what. And you know, I'm okay with that because it's going to make the narrative interesting. It really does. Because if you guys are going to be seen as the bad guys of like your tier, what, you know, as an org, if I was the leader of the org, I'd be like, let's run with it. We are the bad guys.
Right. We're the bad guys. Right. It's a successful way to kind of grow your name, you know?
Exactly. You want us to be the bad guys, we'll be the bad guys, right? We'll do, you know, we'll not care. We'll do all this other stuff that make us look like, but it's not like anybody's doing anything illegal, anything like that. So I totally get it. So, you know, let's talk about this. Let's talk about where do you go from here? Because I think that the future of your organization, like you mentioned, has a lot of turmoil around it, and there's a lot of opinions being told about it and stuff like that. But tell me this: where do you see your organization going, and how do you feel it's going to be growing from here on?
So here's kind of like, it was like a big discussion that we had with like everybody, or almost everybody in our org, is that a lot of people were thinking about it. It's like, hey, like, let's rebrand. Like, you know, we should just do this kind of stuff because there's all this shit kind of surrounding our name. And like, all this other stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, me and a lot of people ended up agreeing. It's like, listen, like, this isn't the end of chaotic. You know what I mean? Like, we can totally redeem ourselves. And we've just kind of like realized that this community isn't the most welcoming and it isn't what it used to be, right? Because as soon as money got involved, that brought a lot more people in, and that brought in obviously the bad apples, right?
Right.
And so I think one of the major things that we're kind of doing is like, we're going to keep our heads held high. We're going to let people say what they want to say about us, let it run its course, and we're going to be back better than ever. And we're expanding into a couple of things. We've actually just signed our first Smash team that's going to Smash and Swap in Wisconsin, and so it's going to be our first ever LAN team.
Wow,
and so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's huge for us. As in Oregon, we're expanding into like COD, and I'm actually talking to people about going to the Midwest LAN teams. I'm actually talking to somebody about that, and then we're looking into open division opportunities as well. So on PC. Right. So if anything, this is just kind of a kickstart for me. I'm starting to focus a little less on the CGL and kind of more of like expanding into an esports organization and an actual kind of like thing that could end up being something. I don't want to leave CGL behind, right? Our plan is to keep a tier 2 in there. We're looking into the overguard for our tier 4 team, and this upcoming COWL thing that's coming up that is created by a few people within the organization or within CGL. It's like, you should really check it out. It's like, it's cool because you go in and you kind of play underneath that the OWL name and that kind of stuff. And
right.
then it's going to be like, it's CGL off season, it's like they kind of train, kind of mess with your rosters and that kind of stuff. It's not taken that seriously. Us as an organization, we can't stay hung up on this forever, and that's kind of what I've realized, is that the more and more that I fight it, the more that we just kind of sit here and like listen to the background noise, that kind of stuff of all the rumors. It's the less time that could be spent being productive. So we're growing our staff. We're trying out new members. We're obviously appreciating any support that comes our way. The end of the day, what we've been, this is a console over. It's like it's a actual console Overwatch league, like an Overwatch league for console. But there's staying hung up on it isn't going to do anything for Chaotic besides drag us down, right? So all we can do is just accept the fact that this happened and grow from it, and kind of just continue to build our brand, because to be rebranding would be is just running from our past, right? And we don't need to do that. We're staying together. We pride ourselves on the fact that we're pretty much a family, so we're staying together, growing stronger because of it. And we're hoping that next season we can come back and have one hell of a season.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think that's a great way to look at everything. So listen, that's kind of all the questions I had so far. Chat is very active right now. Most of it's theory, just talking a lot about your organization, but there have been a few questions. If there is any more questions that like to be said, make sure you type them in the chat. I'll try to answer them. There was a wall of text that came through for me. Now I think this is a question, but I think it's a fun question, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too, because I think it's weird. So somebody added me in the chat, and he said, if a portal appear in your doorway and it goes to a different anime or video game, would you make your own character and leave your life behind, or stay in your normal world? All right, so you can take about 10 people with you. All right. By the way, if you die, you just respawn. But every time that you die, it feels like you're getting shot by a pistol. So that is a very weird question. I gotta say that's probably
a very interesting question. That's
a very weird question.
Who asked that question? That's amazing.
So that was asked by Master 69 Lucifer.
Okay, whoever that is, I love you. Okay, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't know. I'd have to mull over that for a little bit. But honestly, that would be pretty cool if I got to take 10 people with me.
Right.
That'd be pretty sick. I'd probably do it.
Right.
So.
I seeing the question, it's a very hard question actually,
It's a
because
really hard question.
but I think eventually I'd be like, no, I'd stay with real life. You know, I think
Maybe.
for
It would
me
take a lot of.
personally, yeah, for me personally, I'd be like, okay,
It would take a lot of thought.
right. All right, so we have other questions in chat. Okay,
All right.
so okay, so somebody's asking you, can you ask Kuray to turn his head a bit to the left so I can see his ear? I'm assuming that they want to see you flex your AirPods.
Yeah, it's right here and right here.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the questions. Okay. See, so the other question is, am I the only one who say Hot Topic like the Hot Pocket theme song? Okay, maybe that's more of a comment than a question, but
It's more of a comment. Yeah.
Right. All right. So listen, if anybody else has had any more questions in the chat, feel free to ask them.
If anybody's got like, I'm more than down to kind of like clear up any theories or anything. Some people out there, even after the show ends, like if you have a question about a specific part of the situation, my DMs
Right.
are always open on Discord, and they're definitely always open on Twitter. So you can send me messages on either, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has as well. So if there's any like theories or anything that I need to clear up, now would be the time as well. So I understand that a lot of people like to speculate, and I could add on to it.
Right. Okay. So one of the other questions in chat is, who do you think is the best tier 3 off support?
Off support in tier 3.
In tier 3, yes.
Oh man,
that's a loaded question.
Hard.
I don't even think I can answer that question in my own tier. So
no, that is incredibly hard because there's so many fantastic off supports out there. It's like, you know, it's just not like one of those things where it's like somebody just absolutely stands out. So, you know, I think there's a lot of amazing people out there. Throne had a really good one. We had a good. I know that Danny DeFito's got a really good one. Space has a really good one as well. So it's like, you know, this thing. It's really hard to just kind of pick out a specific person.
Right. Okay. So they're also mentioning tier 4. I don't know if you have a tier 4 pick as well for off support.
I do.
Okay.
Actually, for off support, all I want to say is watch out for our tier 4 team because we have the best Zenyatta to walk this earth. Okay, wow. I promise. The kid is insane. Okay, you don't understand. Well, look out for Krabby Patties. He was tier 3. He was actually tier 3 this season. So if I had to say off support, that'd probably be him. He's basically the Jonak of Xbox. He's insane to me.
Okay, nice.
He played for Mouchies, I think. Mouchies tier 3, something like that.
Nice. Okay, so then here's another. We got a few other questions. Okay. Let's see. So one of them is probably a little more controversial. So a theory in the chat is asking, I don't know if this is necessarily a question per se, but why chaotic players get banned if they apparently didn't do anything wrong? I don't know. I think we addressed it, but go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of rehash. Okay, so what happened is that there were the 2 players who absolutely did something wrong. Okay, I was banned because I was banned from the Discord, and playing in it is because I allowed it to happen, right? And I didn't say anything about it. So since that was against the rules, that's kind of why I got my punishment. The other 2 players were alleged to do that, and since what the CGL admins told me specifically, and I want this to be perfectly clear for everyone, is that since it was allowed to happen in my organization, that they took all other claims seriously, and that they couldn't believe that it didn't happen. So they didn't exactly have proof that it did.
Right.
But they didn't have it either, right? And so they said that they were going, and that they said that because it was allowed to happen, or an account sharing had taken place, that it then that is why those players were banned, right? So it's not like they had solid evidence or anything. They were just kind of going off as a kind of a precaution. That's what I kind of understood the situation as.
Right, right, and it should be noted. It should be noted, and I think, I mean, I think this is more common sense because any other esports organization or even sports league does the same thing, right? It should be noted that every organization, including CGL, right, they handle things internally, and they will not show things about their own investigations because they don't want to show why or who or did whatever reason why, right? So the admins have their own reasons for doing things like that. It doesn't mean that they're shady. I mean, every other sports league does the exact same thing. I mean, you know, if you go to any other thing, it's exactly the same way. So that should be noted because people are like, oh, well, this is shady or this is, you know, no, that's not the case. There's a rule book. There's a rule book that
I
CGL
encourage
has, right?
everyone.
Yeah, there's a rule
I
book that
encourage
CGL has.
everyone
So.
I encourage everyone to kind of like, because everybody's like looking to point fingers somewhere here, right? Like if
Right,
it's
right,
not our
right.
fault, it's the CGL ad's fault, and it's
Right.
like they at the end of their jobs, right? Now, again, I can say from a person, I wasn't informed as that we were being that we were being investigated. No questions were asked. No proof was asked, like from my side, and I just kind of felt like they were really slow to respond, that kind of thing. So, I get calculations of my own kind of things, but I'm not going to, openly say that because I think it's fair to have an opinion. I just think you have to understand that these people are also that gets 100 submissions a day. That is like thousands and thousands of people, and they don't get. So you should still be, kind of grateful that they are running a league that you can still play for. That kind of thing. So.
Right.
Again, I may not like what happened or how the situation was handled, but at the end of the day, all I can do is appreciate the fact that we were given an opportunity to play here in the first place.
Right. Exactly. Ropithon in the chat. I think this question is more for me, but he's asking what tier am I in? I am in tier 4. Don't listen to Headrammer in the chat. My mod is literally roasting me in the chat saying that I'm in tier 1. I am not in tier 1. I am in tier 4. I have stated that previously. Okay, so let's Headrammer, calm down. Okay.
Hey, hold on, wait a second. Let's get a little appreciation for Headrammer. He's helped me quite a bit, and he works his ass off for this league. So let's get a little hearts in there for him too, and maybe he can confirm that Dazzle.
All I have to say about Headrammer is even a broken clock is right twice a day. That's all I have to say about Headrammer. All right. Well, listen, I think that's all the time that we have. We've definitely gone more than the allotted time, but listen, it's been good. I think we hashed out a lot of different things. People got to air their grievances, and again, everybody in chat, if you disagree, if you agree, it really doesn't matter, but if you have something to say and you would like to be on the show and you wanted to also state your position or whatever the case may be, contact me. Let me know. I mean, I know on Twitter sometimes I'll say, hey, I have this person who's going to be interviewed, and somebody's like, how dare you have that person? That person's trash, or they don't know this, or, and they have their own reasons. This is a community podcast. Everybody in the community is welcome to have their own platform and opinion on here. So if you have something to say, let me know so I can put you on the show. All right. So if you have any of those things, be like Kuray, who came up to me and in my DMs and was like, hey, I want to be on the show. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do something. And so it's that simple, right? And if I have time for you, I will definitely put you on the show. So message me. Social media is, you can find me at Twitter at just Dazzle167. Very easy. Obviously on my channel, if you want to reach me through that, or streams or anything like that. Also, if you want to be a part of the show, message me. I can't state that enough because still people don't know that that's how you get on the show. Just message me. Yeah. That's all you have to do. So Kuray, thank you so much for being on the show. I really hope the best for you. I think that this whole controversy and everything, I hope it's all in the past and we all hash it out and clear it out. And the people who are clearly don't like the what the organization has done and stuff like that, I hope they come into it with a fresh mind and to just think about the fact that, again, this is video games, right? This is
exactly. I think Another thing, like I said, you can either go on Twitter and follow me at Sir Kuray or SIRKURAY. You can go find me there, message me there. You can search me up on Discord. You'll probably see it's Kuray. And you could even go as far as to invite me to a party on Xbox, and I will speak to you personally if I have the time. I am more than willing to kind of give that information out and to kind of like assist you in whatever you may hope to know about the situation. So.
Right.
Anyway,
exactly.
Thank you for letting me come on the show, man. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime, dude. Anytime. And I'm glad you had time to come on the show and stuff like that. And remember, next week we'll have some more guests. I am talking to, I think, the founder of Nebula Esports, and we'll talk to him next week. We'll also have some other guests, hopefully. So tune in for that. Follow the Twitter so you can get updates on when we're going to be having the show and who's the next upcoming guest. And then we'll go from there. Kuray, again, a pleasure to have you on the show once again. As always. Oh, for sure, man. I'm glad you came. I hope you had fun, even though, this is probably one of those things where you're kind of coming in and you're like, guys, this is all right. This is what we did. But I hope that you had fun, and the fact that we had a nice little conversation and stuff like that. All right. So here's what's going to happen at the end of the show. We usually try to do we try to do like a raid on different people and stuff like that. We're going to go ahead and see if we could raid somebody. And I think CGL might actually be doing something right now. So we might just raid CGL because I feel like that might be the move to go to. So if you are still in chat and you want to hang out, I think CGL is doing a Mortal Kombat 11 Twitch thing. So check out that. I'm going to go ahead and raid them in the chat as well. Console Gaming League 2, right? If you do end up going into their chat, make sure you say hi. Tell them that Off the Wall sent you, Dazzle and Kuray sent you. So say hi over there to Skate Action DJ, who's, I believe he's
I love
he's on
Skate.
there. Yeah, Skate is really cool. I love Skate as well, except for the fact that he plays Moira. I don't like that. But besides that, I think he's a great... Right. Except regardless of that, I think he's a great person.
No,
despite his Moira.
He's a wonderful person.
Right. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, until next time, I will catch you guys next week or whenever we go back onto stream and Off the Wall again. And guys, I'll see you later. Bye.
All right, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up.